it was something he wanted to say to a friend who was going through a breakup. And he said, we can just talk about being sad. You don't have to make the sad thing funny for me. There will be no conversational
Mm,
token system in place here because I'm starting to think that talking about the sadness might be the same thing as processing the sadness. And if we're not doing that, then we only have our thoughts for company. And our thoughts are unreliable. They invent things, they lie to us, and they give us bad advice. Not talking about the sadness is what leads us into the madness.
Welcome to the Do You Feel Heard podcast, a production of Helping the Herd. Helping the Herd is committed to empowering individuals to liberate themselves from the patterns that keep them from creating their ideal life. If you like this podcast, visit helpingtheherd.com to find resources and personalized coaching to empower you to be your best self.
Hello. Hello, listeners. Hello, Nicole. Thank you for being back on the Do You Feel Heard podcast. We are so happy to have you here. Unfortunately, Ian, my faithful co-host, and our dear friend, was not able to make it today. So it's just you and I today, which I'm real excited for. Listeners will remember Nicole from earlier podcast. And yeah, but for newbies, how about you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are, where you are, what lights you up?
Yeah. So my name is Nicole. I'm originally from the Boston area in the States, but I have been living for the last 5 years in Amsterdam. And I mean, that itself lights me up. I absolutely love this city. It's the water, through the city, the canal houses. It's so charming. We live in a lovely little tiny we live in a great neighborhood that's about 10 minutes by bike from the city center, and we have this big park that's not like a very touristy park, so it's really open. I get to walk there every single day with my dog, and my dog is like the mayor of that park. Everybody knows him. He's got quite a personality, and so, as you know, yes,
Yeah.
he will probably make his presence known while I'm here. But yeah, being in my neighborhood lights me up. It is, it's so wonderful. I mean, I was telling you earlier, Derrick, you know, every time I walk out my house, I make a new friend. It's pretty unbelievable. And I feel so lucky. And yeah, that honestly is one of the best things in my life. And aside from that, I've been doing a lot of yin yoga lately, and ceramics. One of the things, that I decided that I needed and wanted for my life was to be more grounded, or to feel more grounded. I can be very much an overthinker and in my head all the time. And so these practices help me to be in my body a little bit more and not so much in my head. So yeah, those are so wonderful. Really like yummy experiences. Do you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
feeling. So yeah, yeah,
Yum, yum, yum. Oh man, I
hmm
feel it. No, absolutely.
yeah.
In yoga, if I'm correct, I think I'm correct. Yum basically is the tone for the heart chakra. So I love that. It's the tone like, Ram or Lam or
Yeah.
Om is for the different chakras. Each one has a tone or a sound. Advanced yogis will probably correct me. I'm messing something up. But I remember that being so interesting because, whenever you're really in the heart, whenever you're centered and you're just loving, doesn't it just feel like yum, yum, yum,
hmm
yummy? So I love that. And
Oh, that's funny. I think
yeah,
you're right.
and
I think is it YAM though?
I think so. I think it's
I
like
think so.
yum, but I think it's
But
pronounced
it's
more
like
like
yum,
yum.
yum, yeah. Ooh, I love it. Ah, I
Exactly.
love love.
I was
So,
gonna
and I
say.
love loving things. So,
And I think it's
great.
apparent, and that might be part of the answer to this question. But I'm really curious. Like we were talking about before, I'm a social guy, I'm an open guy, but I'm still not making acquaintances here and there. What do you think it is that every time you're out that you keep connecting to people in this magical city?
Ah, wow. I mean, that's a great question because I do have a lot of expat friends here who are like, I
Mm,
don't make any, like I don't make any friends and, whatever. And, I don't know how you have so many, but I think, well, also my partner is, I mean, you know Jason. I was introduced to you through Jason, the friendliest man on earth. Well, yeah. So I think the two of us together, you know, we're just not shy and striking up a conversation. So that definitely goes a long way. I mean, I'll ask somebody pouring a glass of water next to me at a restaurant, like, oh, I really like that tattoo. Can you tell me about it? You know, and then who knows? So I would say, and I have been described actually as like a can opener. I remember doing it was some sort of like an icebreaker event somewhere, and someone was like, you know, if you were a kitchen utensil or a thing you'd find in a kitchen, what would you be? And I don't remember what I said, but I do remember somebody who knew me was like, no, you're a can opener. And I don't know if that was like a good thing or a bad thing, because a can opener feels like you have to use the force with it, you know? But maybe it's just like, I don't know. But so I think part of it is I'm very curious and fairly friendly. Another part as well, I mean, I do have a dog. And so, as mentioned, we're constantly meeting people in the park that way. But yeah, I mean, they may very well just be sort of like an energy to me where people know that I'm someone who will, I don't know, listen or be fun to talk to or something like that. Because yeah, I find sometimes I feel myself wanting to have a conversation with somebody, but I'm like, stop trying to make friends with everybody, Nicole. Like, stay put, you know, keep your mouth shut. And then naturally that person will come to me anyways. And next thing you know, we're going for coffee. So I don't know.
That's beautiful. I think we really do have a sonar for when people are really listening, are really curious, are really interested. And I think you just exhibit that. I think you are the can opener. And I think they meant just in your ability to open cans, not the force it's taken to do that. Maybe you're an electric can opener. Maybe that's what they meant to say. You really got me thinking about what kitchen utensil I am, but I'm going to keep pondering that one. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. There's a lot of kitchen implements out there. I got thoughts, but we'll return to that if we need to. But no, that makes so much sense with just how open and curious you are, and it's just so genuine that you are interested. I love I've been on the receiving end, you know, of a chain of questions from you. Wait, what? How did you get into that? And what's going on with? And you're just so genuinely curious that it is opening. It opens up the can. It really does, and it's a wonderful thing. Well, man, you make me, I know I need to visit. You make me really like light up about getting out there, and I will. We will very soon. But yeah, what's going on in the city? What's something that you've been doing lately that lit you up, or like an event you went to? Like, what's it like being there?
Ooh, so okay, this past week, Thursday was my birthday, and
Happy belated.
Dankjewel, dankjewel. It was a great birthday. I really felt going into this year of like how appreciative I was of last year and all the people that have come into my life or have been in my life for a really long time, and that I'm carrying with them with me into my next year. And it was a great birthday, and I got to spend it doing a lot of really wonderful things. Given that it was a Thursday, we you know, spent the day just around town here, but on Thursday we went to the beach in the evening and watched the sunset. And it was a beautiful beach. There wasn't too many people there. I love like a moody beach, and you know, April weather. It's not too hot yet, but the sun was out, but the wind was blowing, and you know, I could feel it on through my linens, and it was just, again, yummy. It was so yummy.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You were describing yummy.
Yes, it was the yummiest. I was so happy, and we took the dog, of course. And then on Friday night, we did a little bit more of like an event where we went to a dance performance. I met somebody a couple weeks back who worked for the National Opera House and National Opera and Ballet, and she had recommended to me this collective that's like a fusion of hip hop and contemporary, and said, you know, if you're interested in anything like this, I 10 out of 10 recommend. And so immediately we went on and we booked tickets for my birthday. They are touring around, but this was their opening weekend, and their performance space was a 15-minute bike from our house. Amazing, right? So went there, and it was called, the performance piece was called Home, and it was these four dancers set in like a living room. There was a couch in the middle, and then an ottoman in front of it, and two like single love seat, well, smaller than a love seat, but not just like a chair. I don't know.
Okay.
On either side. And
an oversized chair, like you can
yeah,
put 1.5 people in it, so maybe.
yeah. And there's no speaking in this at all. It's just these four people dancing throughout this room with these couches, moving this all around, and it was absolutely breathtaking. I mean, my jaw was on the floor the whole time. I mean, let me just read you a little bit about what this dance performance was about. So it says it explores what happens when the familiar foundation of a physical place, person, or structure falls away. In Home, the house symbolizes more than a physical structure of home. It symbolizes stability, safety, and security. What happens when that feeling of security changes and inevitably gives way to feelings of loss and uncertainty? In Home, dancers bring the complexity of this experience to life, with the performance showing how it feels when that stability disappears. At the same time, the dancers explore the space for the growth and new possibilities that arise in uncertain times. Home takes you on a journey and makes you think, what does home mean to you? I actually didn't know that was what that was about until after, when I said I want to read more about this. And the reason is because the website was in Dutch, and I just simply like I was like, I'll go. I just like wasn't bothered enough to even like Google Translate it, and my Dutch certainly isn't that good. So I knew that I could check out what it was, and I did afterwards, and it felt so important to me, because of the work that we do, and that, so much of what we want to put out there is to help people have the safety in a home. And also, of course, we're often dealing with people. I mean, every person has had experiences of the growth and the complexity and the grief and all the stuff that comes out in the uncertain times, you and I included, right? And so it just hit me in such a way. I mean, even before I read that description, I mean, we walked out of there, and my partner and I were like, okay, what do you think? What was that about? And I said, and they're moving this furniture all around, and they're jumping all over it, and they're turning it on its side and all sorts of stuff. And there were moments that they were all together, and there were moments where really one person was kind of off and really having these big expressive dance movements, and like, it felt like everybody was fighting their own demons, right? And were a little bit uncertain and uncomfortable to share them with the others, but the others also gave them the space to have those. And I wish I could explain it better. I loved it so much. And, I think about home all the time, and what does it mean? What does home really mean? People say home is where the heart is. I don't believe that. I say home is where the safety is, because there's a lot of people out there who do not have safe homes, but have safety in other people or other places that do feel a home, right? And there's a lot of people who say, I have a chosen family, right? And so to me, home is not where the heart is. I mean, I guess that home is where the heart is can also be the same thing as where the safety is. But, you can also love your family or love your home, but it not necessarily be always the safest place. So to me, that description and everything, it just resonated with kind of my core belief and where I stand. And one of my favorite words, and it's actually the name of my website, my business LLC name, is Nava, and it's an ancient Aramaic word, and it means to bring home, to celebrate, to make beautiful. And like, that's what home's supposed to be, right? Sorry, I've really gone deep here on that, but
you have the passion. No, it was very
I just loved it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I felt like I was there at the performance, and I really like that. Home is where the safety is. That safety and stability allows for growth and celebration and those other things you mentioned, along with that security and that peace. And it's funny how you need one for the other. We can't grow and change without stability and structure. But what you really described there, I really liked. I was trying to envision the performance, and I like how you described how the furniture was being moved and rearranged. And what I took from there was really, home is not a physical location. Home, it does not matter what the walls are, what color they are, if there are walls. Home is, again, either, I was thinking the same thing, where the heart is. I was thinking about that one. Or what resonates with me the most, especially in this work that we do, Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Home is wherever I'm with you. I love that. Home is wherever I'm with you being, I think, the truest embodiment of a real romantic relationship where you're fully committed to each other. That, like, I'm not saying real, there's no false. The traditional, not traditional, what's the word for, like, almost like iconic, the ideal, maybe the ideal romantic relationship where you are at home with that person, and your safety and stability with each other allows you both to grow. And it doesn't matter what furniture is and where the furniture is, or if it's upside down or sideways. You're stable and you have the structure of each other.
Gosh, there's a million things I want to say about that. Yes. Yes. I mean, so totally. It's that feeling of just like, actually, funny. I think I said that in my vows to my partner, actually. No, I definitely did. I said, God, what did I say? It was, I think, when I met you, it was like when I met you, something about how something landed in my body and it felt like I've come home, like, and, and there are times where we, in any relationship, there's arguments and there's, disagreements or whatever. And maybe if the safety, there's never been anything violent or anything like that in my relationship, but when you're feeling maybe judged or worried, that anxious that they might leave or whatever it is, right? That feeling may kind of go away. Luckily, that's not something we experience very frequently, and we're, through these tools that we've cultivated, we're really able to come back to. But it is true that I look at this person sometimes and it really feels like I'm not judged here, I'm accepted, I'm listened to, I'm supported, I'm so lucky, and I'm home, right? And at the same time, I also love this idea of snails, because snails, wherever they are home. Also, you could say this about turtles, right? Like, they carry their homes on their backs, sort of thing. That's something that someone once said to me in a tarot reading many, many years ago, and it stuck with me, and I'm such a dork and I love snails now because of this. And when I see them, it reminds me, like, oh, yep, I'm home. Like, I'm home, I'm here. And then I think as well I'm thinking about, like, the White Lotus, right? And when he asks are you all caught up? Or have you watched it?
We just watched the season finale last night. So I guess possible spoilers. Well, I don't know if spoilers.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to go into the spoilers, but when he asks her, like, what would you do if we lost everything? And she's like, oh God, I would just want to die. Like, I'm too late in my life. But then you think about it, and then you also, and the couples and the relationships that have been through lots of money, no money, all these things, all these changes, all these moves, whatever it is. But when you have that love, right? When you have, like you said, this is sort of like the ideal love. It's like, that is enough, that is if you can get your physical needs met, right? That can be more rich than anything else, right? So I guess Parker Posey did not have that feeling towards her husband and her children. But anyways, I think I just have White Lotus on the brain.
Me too. No, definitely. Yeah, we just watched the season finale last night. So it's fresh. It's relevant. You got your finger on the pulse. And Yeah, I think they do highlight well in there the issues with materialism, and no matter how large and elaborate your home is, no matter how many safe and inviting locations you can come to and make home, if the home isn't stable internally, if each person doesn't have either some stability themselves, like that snail shell or that turtle shell that allows them to feel home, or that overarching family turtle shell that they can all get into together. It really doesn't matter where you are. There's going to be pain, suffering, disconnection, instability. And again, that stability is what's required for growth. I think that family really encompasses a lot of just stagnation. A lot of people who aren't growing, who aren't able to grow because of that, even with all of the external stability you could imagine in terms of wealth, you don't have the internal. And that's why home is wherever I'm with you. That's why home is where the heart is. Wherever I lay my head is home. I love that one as well. Wherever I lay my head is home. I do think that's what I strive for. And I would also posit to say that that is possibly why you strike up all these acquaintances too. Whenever you do carry that shell on your back, and I think people pick up on that too. People know when you feel like home, and people want that. People seek that.
That is the highest compliment. Thank you so much. I have shivers. I also have a hilariously kind of embarrassing story about the home Edward Sharpe song. So,
Really? I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. One time when I was going through like a bit of like a, maybe a rough time, and I was trying to bring myself on the up, for whatever reason, when that song came on, I decided to sing that song to myself. So home is wherever I am with me. And I like replaced all the words of you with either I or me. And I started laughing so hard. I was on my bike. I remember exactly where I was. I was on my bike and I started laughing so hard. And then I may or may not have continued that with other songs. So sometimes I may sing love songs actually to myself. Um, so yeah, hot tip, boost yourself up because you can't
I
help but
love
laugh
that.
doing that. It
Yeah.
was, yeah,
I absolutely. Home is wherever I'm with me.
with
You'll
me.
see. That's so good. I can relate. Never with a song like that, but I journal frequently, and I journal. It's funny. Sometimes I'm in the I, and sometimes I'm in the you. Sometimes I'm talking to myself, like you got this, or
Oh
I'm building
yeah.
myself up, or having a healthy conversation with myself in a similar way. You got this. You're going through it, but you got this, or I got this. And it's a funny thing whenever I switch from you to I sometimes, and I realize like I felt disconnected from myself in some way and had some part of myself come in, journal to that self, and say home is
Bring
wherever
you
I'm with
back
you,
in.
basically bring you back in. And then eventually it shifted. This happened just like yesterday I remember
Of
this, and I
course
was
it
like,
did.
wait, why am I in you? Why am I not saying I? And like I was like, oh, there must be some disconnect, and talked myself through it a little bit, and then it was back to I got this instead of you got this, and it was so beautiful. So I love that you're at home with yourself, and you're so right. Affirming yourself via song, via affirmation, whatever it is, writing love songs to yourself is a beautiful practice, and it is funny. We gotta take things lightly. We gotta laugh sometimes.
Yeah. And it's good to love yourself. It's good to get there. It's so easy to to not love yourself sometimes, to compare to whatever. And so to build that in that practice of self-love and oof, I mean,
That's right,
yeah,
and that's
gotta
it.
water, got water. What's that quote? Gotta water where you are. Mm,
Hydrate or
never
die.
mind.
I think hydrate or die. I
Yeah,
think that's what
let's
you're thinking of.
move on with that one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That must have been
Oops.
it. No, that's actually the other note. I was going through journals today. One note that I found that I think is relevant here. I found support is greater than help. Support is greater than help, and wanted to talk about this with you. And let's start it with ourselves. And think about what was I doing when I'm journaling to myself? What am I doing? What are you doing when you're on your bike singing hilarious new versions of songs? You could say first you have to help yourself before you can help anyone else. Or you could say first you need to support yourself and be, again, what's it mean to be at home with the shell on your back? That does have to start internally, even in a committed relationship sometimes. We're not always with our other person. Sometimes we're biking, we're in a foreign place. So I think it's interesting to think about support versus help. And I really just kind of want to get that one off because I've seen myself how helping can become pathological. As much as I'm in the healing profession, I'm a PA, then we do this relationship coaching. I do all this to try to help others, but something I'm always worried about in some way is disempowering by helping and not actually serving the other people in my life. And that starts with myself. If I am trying too hard to help myself, then I'm not actually building myself up, empowering myself. And so I'll leave it there I wonder what you think about why I wrote down in this journal some months ago, support is greater than help. Support is greater than help.
Yeah. So immediately what came up to me is that sometimes help is like fixing, Help is often fixing right. Or providing or something. Support is literally holding something up, holding space, holding right? It's being there underneath the ground of something, right? So that to me is a deep hug. It's a handhold. It's an ear. It's space. That's right? It's not trying to change it or dismiss it, and this is super, super important, is and I'm sure you're super aware of this, but the idea of sometimes when there's something going on in our body and we're like, oh, I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. Right. But sometimes, it's more so like I can't get rid of it, or maybe I don't need to get rid of it. Maybe I can sit with the discomfort of it a little bit and it can just exist there, because instead I'm fighting it, right? Mm-hmm. So trying to help, trying to fix is actually dismissing a thing. And oh gosh, that comes so much into communication as well with people of, somebody says like, well, I'm going through this or whatever. And you're like, well, have you tried this? And it's like, that's not like, oh gosh, the typical like, I'm feeling really depressed. Oh, well, have you tried smiling? Have you tried looking at the sun and writing down 3 things you're grateful for? And it's like, yeah, I have absolutely tried that, and thank you, but I think that's not exactly what I needed from you here, right?
That's such a good example. That's exactly where it's being pathologizing. There's the fixing. And what I think about the most, I think I actually shared this on an earlier podcast. It comes back to me all the time. And because this is a perennial issue with me trying so hard to help, but trying to be more skillful about it with myself and with others. It's something along the lines of, if you fix something, you're implying that it's broken.
It was broken, yeah.
If you heal something, you're implying that it's sick or diseased. But what happens if you serve something? To serve. For me, serve comes very much like the support that we're talking about here, this ability to serve or to support something. Like you said, it doesn't have to be broken to have support. I'm thinking back to home, and I'm thinking about those couches and those different furniture, the half couches or over chairs, whatever they are their support. You can sit on them. But the cool thing about there was, again, that they showed you don't need them. You can get up and you can dance, and you don't need the chair to be at home. And then you said people had big emotions or, went through some things. And what did not happen in that performance, per your description, is everyone came in and fixed that person who was broken for crying or for expressing themselves. They allowed. They just were. They allowed. And that's, I think, what real home is a place for someone to be and not be fixed, not be healed, but allowed to be. And from there, maybe they start to smile on their own, or maybe they start to have gratitude on their own, or maybe they're able to hear a helpful reminder or support of, hey, I'm grateful for this today. What about you? It's such an art, and it's so beautiful to feel, but it's also just so hard to come to terms with how we get in our own way so much and pathologize and try to fix ourselves or others before just letting them be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, in this dance, that was exactly what I was getting from that moment was, somebody was really using these big, almost like glitchy, almost, they were expressing pain. They were expressing pain and like short circuiting, and like nobody stepped in to try and stop them, contain them, whatever, or they just sort of let them go through it, right? And with tenderness in their eyes of, I see you in pain and I can't fix you, but I can be here for you. And, that also makes me think, and something you just said too, is I was out with a friend the other day, and she's going through a hard time, and she doesn't like to be a burden to others. And one of the things I told her is, and she thinks that having a hard time and maybe not being like her best, most bubbly, fun self is a burden, or that other people don't want to be around her. And one of the things I told her is like, I would rather be around you when you feel like, if you feel like crap or not, whatever, I'd rather be around you than not around you at all. Like, I'd rather see you and sit with you in your shit than, than wait 6 months to see you. And I said, I'm like, you don't need to be anything for me. You don't need to be happy or not, because like that's your value to me is not in like your mood of the day by any means. And I also had come across from a book what was it? Dolly Alderton, Good Material. It was some fiction book. It was a fine book. I'm not necessarily, it was an easy beach read type of thing. But there was a similar quote in it that I really took to heart. And it was something that I like stopped in my tracks, backtracked. I was listening to it on audio, and I was like, let me write this down word for word, because I truly loved it. And so I'm going to read it to you. It was something he wanted to say to a friend who was going through a breakup. And he said, we can just talk about being sad. You don't have to make the sad thing funny for me. There will be no conversational token system in place here, because I'm starting to think that talking about the sadness might be the same thing as processing the sadness. And if we're not doing that, then we only have our thoughts for company, and our thoughts are unreliable. They invent things, they lie to us, and they give us bad advice. Not talking about the sadness is what leads us into the madness. And yeah, and
Madness to madness.
Conflict itself is growth trying to happen, and sadness and anger, these are parts of conflict, right? And they can be the conflict within us, or they can be conflict within other people, but all of this is growth trying to happen. And growth does also mean sometimes the releasing, sometimes the letting something run its course in a way, instead of sort of cutting it off in its tracks or trying to, right? Because that's just dismissing, right? Or that's
right. Wow. I sent a old Ram Dass clip to, I think, you and your partner not long ago, and he responded to it, and it was something along the lines of Ram Dass talking about just being able to be with someone and not make it better, or not play into their pain or suffering and make it worse and be like, oh my gosh, that is the worst thing ever, or oh no, it's okay, but literally just listening and hearing and saying, I hear you at the end of it. And what he described it as was being the space for someone to come up for air. I think that could be another definition of home in a way, where we can breathe, where we have space to be and breathe. If you're being, you're breathing. You know, if you're alive, you're breathing. If you're not breathing, you got more problems to worry about than meditating or whatever breath work you're trying to do. So it's always there. So can we be this space for someone to come up for air? And that's what I hear with that one, and not change it. And I think that can be so hard. I really struggle with that, not wanting to be a burden on others. There's something about either the responsibility of being in a helping profession, whether it's because I didn't have space growing up, because I had a mom who was dysregulated and didn't have the space for me to breathe, so I had to be that space for her for too long. But for whatever reason, I often cannot be a burden in my own mind to someone else. And so I will either bottle it up, be overly optimistic maybe, and I think there's a healthy version of this too that I think I do, ride the line on. I do transmute things a little bit with humor, with beauty, and I think I think I can be authentic in that. I think that's part of my prism. That is me, because I do think that is the purpose of art for me so much of the time. It's helping us process and digest these things that are really hard to swallow, because we add beauty to them. We add music, we add laughter, we add art or something to life, death, this whole thing. And so I don't think that's necessarily inaccurate. I think if it feels authentic, you can express it however it is. But I think that's exactly it. You have to let people be so they can process and not bottle it up. Can we be that space?
Well, and what you're talking about with like art, I mean, that is absolutely a processing, you're giving yourself space there, space to be with what is inside of you, and to explore it, not from an analytical point of view, not overthinking every bit of it, but to feel it in the music, feel it in the paint strokes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would absolutely consider that support,
Yeah. And then absolutely, we have to support ourselves, we can support others, but this is the other part of it that I've been really thinking about lately, is how do we empower someone when they're down on themselves, or they're going through it, or maybe they just have some issues with feeling like they're as agentive as they want. How do we empower? And this is where that not wanting to be a burden really gets in my way. Something I believe, and I want to know what you think about this, is that one of the best ways to empower someone is to ask for help, is to truly ask for help and to be vulnerable and let them help you if they're available to. Asking for help. So it's so funny when I can want to help someone, want to empower, and I can be trying to give them all this help, when if I wanted to help them, I would ask for help myself. I would be the vulnerable one. I would be willing to be a burden. I would ask, hey, I'm having a hard day. Like, can you be there for me? For me, that's what really helps build someone up, is whenever they're able to show up and see their own power. And I believe we all have lots of resources that are available. But yeah, I want to know what you think about that, because it's a really hard process for me, but it's something that I believe, at least at this time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think, so on the one hand, I'm like, okay, so if Derrick ever asks me for help, I know he's manipulating me into trying to help myself somehow. No, that's really interesting. I think, I mean, I've never considered it like that, but, and maybe I probably actually already am, as I'm a fairly open person and whatnot. It's possible that I am often kind of doing that anyways. I'd have to sort of think about it. But what came to mind when you first posed that is kind of going back to where I first started with the pottery and the yin yoga. It's like I knew that there was a certain value that is really important to me, and I feel the most I would say regulated and myself when I'm able to be grounded, and so I would but that's for me. For somebody else, they may need a different type of thing. And that kind of, this all goes to choosing your life and what you want out of it, right? And so I guess I might consider, in this case with somebody, asking them, what do you want right now? Like, not a thing. What do you want to feel, right? What do you feel like you're missing? And then how can we cultivate that, right? Like, what are things or practices that sound good to you that would give you that sense? However, that is also asking somebody to really be pretty honest with themselves and also take on a certain level of work, right? So
Yeah.
I think I really like your approach as like sort of a precursor even of like how like first building them up, because yeah, you get so much out of helping others, I think. And
Yeah.
then yeah, then they can say where they can maybe help themselves. That's curious.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I think about a lot because I think it's so easy to accidentally disempower, again, fix, making someone broken, heal, making someone sick, instead of just being or serving. So even, I promise I don't, as far as I know, I don't use asking for help manipulatively. I still am in dire need of help in learning how to ask for help. I'm much more, I will ride out the waves of my suffering until I can be funny or vibrant and then reconnect to the people, and it's a pattern I'm trying to stop doing. I'm trying to stop being in my own little turtle shell and move into the larger turtle shell of the collective and of the friends that I have. So I promise at least for now, it hasn't been manipulative, but it's more just an organic process that I think is funny how it happens when we are honest and when we are safe with people. And if we feel safe and stable, why wouldn't you ask for help, or ask for support? Maybe there's, again, see, that support is greater than that. Ask for support, like, yo, I'm having a hard time today, I want to hang out. Doesn't even have to be, can you help me? I am in need of saving. It's, can you support me? Can you be a friend today? Can you be around today?
Yeah, or
Something like
just
that.
yeah, or even, hey, I thought you should know this about me because it's where I am right now. And,
Mm,
and that's honest. That's the truth. And that's, I can't show up in a fake way right now. And so there's so much power in that honesty. And I also think that brings in, it will bring in support, right? And so, yeah,
yeah.
I I'm really I'm really interested in how yeah, how to help people who are in that place. And this, again, this would be something like I wouldn't want to necessarily offer this right away because I don't want to say like you're broken, you're whatever. I think the truth is it's that you make friends with the those hard parts, right? You
Mm-hmm.
say like, you know, hello, heavy feeling. Hello, um, hello, anxiety. I see you're here. You have a right to be here.
Yeah.
I wish, I wish that I could support you. And if there's anything, you let me know, right? But I don't want to shame you away, right? And so
Yeah.
I think I got distracted in my own brain during that and forgot some of what I was going to say. But the other thing that I was going to say about this was like that accepting, right, sort of where you're at and offering the support of just like, I'm here. I see you. You're heard. I'm here. And then not necessarily trying to fix that part, but saying on the other side of it, this is separate to you. I'm not trying to make you go away, but you are here and I want to experience more pleasure right now. So what does that look like, right? And
Mm,
I think there's a reason for this is like when they say while healing, when they say, emotional healing and they say it's important to have fun and it's important to
yeah.
experience pleasure, right? And I think it's because your body needs to remember what that feels like. So, because think about it like this. So, if I haven't had sex in a while, I may not necessarily feel like I need to have sex. I may not be that excited about it, right? But when I've had sex, then I'm kind of like, yeah, I could go for more of that, right? So similar
Yeah.
with, or I shouldn't just say sex. It could be other. It could be self pleasure, right?
Yeah.
But
Massage, exercise. There's all kinds of ways in which we feel that.
yeah, exactly.
Whatever fun is and pleasure is.
Right. Like if I go to yoga and I'm like, oh, I forgot how good that feels, right? And so if I go out dancing with friends, I forgot how good that feels, right? And so it's not necessarily trying to make this thing go away. It's you are here, and at the same time, I am going to bring in more of this value that I'd like to experience right now, this pleasure, this joy. So you can be here, but you can't stop me necessarily from doing these things. Like still gonna go towards them, right? And then once that's there, I'm gonna get more of that and more of that and more of that and more of that. And maybe it's not all in the same exact way. Maybe my body will just attune to pleasure and joy, and I'll see it in other ways. I'll see it in a flower. I'll see it in a butterfly. I'll see it in, you know, a nice coffee with a friend, whatever it is, right? And this heavier feeling, I think, will start to sort of not break apart, but yeah, I mean, dissolve a little. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, no, thank you for the share. It's very Buddhist of you in a lot of ways. There is this
Really?
awareness and acceptance needed before there can be any chance of change, right? If you're going to have this feeling, what we resist persists. So if we're blinding ourselves to it, or if we're rejecting it, even if we see it, there is depression. No, push it away. What we resist persists, I think, very much so. So, I saw a lot about giving awareness to it, a lot of accepting it. Hello, sadness. Hello, pain. Hello, whatever it is. Let it in first. And then that awareness being that first prerequisite to change, and then some acceptance, some allowing. And from there, I like how you use the word attune. And attuning, I think that's so true. I think where attention goes, energy flows. It comes back to me all the time. I was just talking about this last weekend about, they say with race car drivers or like NASCAR drivers, they're trained not to look at the wall, never to look at the wall. You don't look at the wall. Where you point your attention is where the car goes, is where you steer. Where attention goes, energy flows. Subconsciously. Obviously they're not trying to crash, so don't look at the wall. So what I see that is what you're saying with the attuning part. First, we have to see the landscape and, maybe recognize there's depression. There's a wall there. There's a wall there that I could definitely crash into and sink and sink and sink into depression. But once I see it and accept, all right, there's a wall there. Let's now attune to joy, to pleasure, to something else. And then more and more will start coming. It's very skillful. It's an art form. It's not so easy. It's not just a 1, 2, 3 scientific process of working with these things. There's a real art that comes to it. And again, I think an art that only comes if you feel like you're at home in yourself first, maybe, and then in those relationships. And we need those. We can't take it all on ourselves, or I think it becomes way too much. I've been there for plenty of time. No, I can just be at home in myself, but finding and being willing to ask someone else for that place to come up for air, that's that upward spiral, because that's whenever we all do get stronger together and form those pockets of air around. Because I do believe home is, back to the start there, home is, home's a lot of things. But yeah, home is where there's safety. Home is where the heart is. And that's distributed, thankfully, if we're lucky. And let's all take a moment to be grateful for how many places we can actually call home. Those friends, those spaces, those environments where we do feel safe. I can feel alone a lot of the time. But if I start writing down a list, I'm pretty lucky for all the places I could call home when I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Nature. Thinking so much about nature. This home that's, it's created. And, oh my gosh. I recently started kind of a bit of a sit spot which,
Mm.
yeah. Do you know what the sit spot is?
I've never heard the term, but I like it. Sit
Oh my
spot.
gosh. Okay, well, oh my God. I could talk to you for hours. There's so many things that I want to say. There's something I wanted to say before, but I'm gonna move past it and I'll tell you on the side later. But a sit spot is a term coined by I think like the American Forest Therapy Association, something like that.
Mm.
It's a lot. I could go into the long story of this, but I'm not going to. But the whole thing is basically like you find a spot to sit at, and it could be literally like sitting in front of a plant of yours, or it could be sitting outside somewhere, but it's kind of like the same place. Um, and you just sit there and like I guess it's somewhat meditation, but it's also sort of watching the nature, right?
Mm.
And one of the things that I heard about this on a podcast was that it's really nice when you have your sit spot and you see it like kind of throughout the seasons, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how it changes and everything. And I live by a
That's right.
park. I'm there with my dog every day. And for a long time, I mean, I've always loved being there. But when I sort of learned a little bit more about these sit spots, I thought, well, I can pick one spot to make like just a little extra special in this park. And I found this tree that is like quite big and has sort of like the perfect nook in it where my butt can go and my back can lean up
No
against.
way.
And it's got, a little bit of sand in front, sand and grass, and then looks out onto the water. There's like a little pond. Beyond that, there's this set of three trees in a row that reflect on the pond.
You found
And
the perfect sit spot. Are you
oh,
kidding me?
I will send you a
Oh my
text message,
God.
a picture later. It is,
Wow.
and I will just go and sit there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll sit right in front of it or whatever.
Mm.
And it has given me this like extra special appreciation. Watching the birds, sort of like ducks running on the water. Amazing. So
Mm.
cool. And now it's spring and there's baby ducks and like, and now I'm picturing like, oh my God. And I see sometimes kids like and their parents throwing, some bread in for the
Mm.
ducks, and I'm like, someday that could be me. And like, I'm watching as the nights get longer here and how it changes in this space. And oof, my God, like this home, and I've found myself just so appreciative of nature lately and this home that it has created for us and that we reap so many benefits from, food, water, just shelter and stuff. Oh my gosh, sorry.
I feel
I
like I'm
really am
there.
geeking out on nature these days. So good.
As we should. Oh
This
man.
is our
Had we not think
home.
Yeah, how do we not think about that as home? You keep earlier, maybe we did, but you keep zooming out the bubble and seeing where we are,
Safe, it's
what our context
supportive.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love what you said
always
about the
there.
seasons, the change. Like the thing that is amazing is that we can have stability with change. I think that's what holds us back a lot of times is some black and white thinking. If home is where the safety is, safety often means dependability and consistency, but that's just not life, unfortunately, or fortunately, both and it's almost always both and
Yeah.
it's very rarely anything else. And that's, I think, one of those key parts of nature. And there's plenty of meditative kind of concepts around this, but one I remember is I think Alan Watts talking about living on an island and living in tropical environments, especially where you can kind of see change at a more rapid pace, hot, humid.
Mm,
You see an animal pass away, and you see the way in which it goes back to the earth and dissolves and decays, and that this is part of life, and that there's maybe more of an acceptance than of there may be more of an acceptance of this natural process of life than in the concrete jungle that we're often used to, where we are a little more divorced from nature, and we're not seeing that decaying animal or that cycle of seasons changing right in our village, right in our front door or back door, we have to kind of travel for that. We have to seek it out. Otherwise, the concrete kind of stays the same. Maybe the colors change. Maybe one tree doesn't have leaves, but it's your one tree on the street instead of the, the plethora of nature just all around changing. So I think you're so right that we don't get to any of these ideals that we're talking about with ourselves, with the relationships, unless we, can kind of tune into this context that we're all in, which involves change and growth, loss and growth, all happening. That's where that acceptance comes from, where you then get to, like you said, attune to what you want. And from there, instead of running away from death or decay, running away from instability, we can attune to stability, safety, support, home, love, and bring more and more of that in.
I think that's a good point. And you think about like, sometimes it's important to know what you don't want, to know what you do want, right? And to know what doesn't feel safe. And I think so much about people in dating. I love when that happens. I love when that happens with you. It happens to me too. What do you think that is?
Oh boy, this one, I think it's pretty cold in here. I'm going to give you the base
Okay.
rational one and just kind of go
Okay.
ahead and turn the heater on in my office. But
Not a
whenever
little
it's
breeze.
more the frizz in the other one, I really do think we're picking up on the energy. I really, whenever a song gives us chills, that happened a lot over this past week, and I noticed that I got chills in it. They're multiplying. It means we're
Are you
onto
losing
something.
control?
I'm losing control. That's good.
What I was gonna say though, before was, I think this is so important in dating to start noticing like, what doesn't feel safe, right? And if you're feeling like hectic and crazy and what are they gonna say? What am I gonna say? Da, 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 and you feel like you're going a million miles an hour, right? Like that doesn't seem very safe, right? That feels chaotic. It feels nerve-wracking. It feels destabilizing, dysregulating, right? And so to it's important to become like intentional when dating and to say like, oh, I'm feeling this really big chaos, and what I really want to feel is not chaos. And it doesn't mean this is not a good relationship. It means I have the opportunity to accept that I'm feeling this way and ask for what I need. And if that can't be met, then okay, that's it. Then I have to choose to walk away because I know that that's not what I'm looking for, is to feel this, hecticness, this craze all the time. And I think, I'm not sure if I've said it on a podcast before, but one of the things that I've said in my life, at some point in my college years, I took on the motto for myself, like, get the yes or get the no, but don't get crazy. And so like anytime I started feeling that like, how do they think? What do I think? Oh my God, I'm all this like, and that's how my brain and my body felt. It was like very speedy and tense. Then it was like, oh, I know that feeling, and that feeling doesn't feel very safe. So I need an answer, and I'd rather have the answer and it be a no than to keep feeling like this, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, it's knowing what you don't want so that you can attune to what you do want. And, you said before that was like a bit of a Buddhist mindset. One of the things I was saying about the accepting and like the sort of being like, hi, I'm going to detach from you is like a bad thing and just you exist here, right? And then turning towards a different value. I saw that more as like, and I didn't realize this until you were actually saying to me about the Buddhist thing, more of like ACT therapy, right? It's like the basis of that. It's, accepting your emotions, detaching from negativity. It's coming into the here and now and being present, and then seeing yourself as like a whole person, right? Where I can have a complicated emotion or maybe a difficult emotion, but I am not that emotion. I am a whole person, right? And then I have these other values, and I'm going to move towards those values. I'm going to bring in what supports those, because I can't change this one, but I can move towards something I'm interested in or something that I'd like to feel, right? And then reaching that goal. So that's kind of the basis of ACT therapy, and
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, it almost sounds like people can think, oh, you're just being ceaselessly optimistic, which I don't think is necessarily the wrong thing, but it is a good reminder whenever we are in the place that we don't want to be, that I need that to know what I do want. It is very true, and just part of this. And tell me if I'm wrong, but did I catch you almost trying to get some Parker Posey Buddhism in there whenever you're starting? Buddhism.
Did I?
I think you started to when you said Buddhist the first time. I was like, someone's been watching this too much. Buddhism. Piper,
Buddhism.
no.
Piper, no.
That's what I heard.
Lorazepam.
It's that tsunami. Oh, that's too good. But it's very true. It's very true that you have to have that. And what was I going to say? When you start to attune to what you want, I might have lost. I got too in the posy.
Okay.
I will say that I know there was one thing I definitely wanted to get to, though, that with this talk about support and being able to ride all these waves to go through the things you don't want and get to the things you do want, I think that support, especially of a partner, is huge for that. And that to bypass a lot of these different negative cycles we've been talking about, you need a culture of appreciation. That thing we talked about in the Four Horsemen episode, that antidote to some of the Four Horsemen of apocalypse in the relationship is that culture of appreciation. Because we do know that we have a negativity bias sometimes. We do know that there are dark places in our mind or patterns that we can get to, and negativity is one of them. And we might notice more of the things we don't want than what we do want, especially in others. It almost always ends up being, a reflection of myself maybe in the end. And, other people shouldn't take it personally, but we do sometimes. But the culture of appreciation, I just wanted to add that into our list of when we think about support, what that means. I think that's part of home. Home, I think the ideal home is one where you are appreciated and built up. I think home can just be that safe of safety, love. But man, if you're appreciated in your home as well, and you have that culture of appreciation around, and you appreciate and feel grateful, what a launching board for the most ideal life you could imagine. What a launching space
To bring home, to celebrate, to make beautiful, right? That's
right.
the meaning of Nava. And so it's, to celebrate, right? It's so, we could focus on all of the things that aren't going perfectly, or we could celebrate what is going well. And yes, again, not the toxic positivity. It's not dismissing that that's not there, but it is nurturing this mindset to seek the positive, so that at the very least we can have a little bit of a balance, or that compassion, right? So for example, I think I've maybe used this, I've talked about this before. My partner and I make the bed differently, right? And I could be mad that he doesn't do it to my standard, but instead I'm like, well, at least he makes it, right? Like, and so and at first that was my mindset of, ugh, and then I would just redo it. I still redo it, but now I'm like, that was sweet. He, I appreciate that he tried, but I am going to fix this a little bit. So every once in a while I'll get the, ugh, and then again it comes back and it's like, yeah, ugh, but also, he tried. It's sweet. It's fine. I don't cook, so I shouldn't be so mad that he sometimes doesn't put the pillows exactly the way I want them, right? I feel like I'm getting the better end of that bargain there. So
Perspective. Yeah.
I don't even try to cook most of the time. So yeah. But no, yeah, I completely agree with you, right? It's not about dismissing the negativity or the bad feelings or anything like that. It's holding those and holding those, giving those space, and looking for the light too at the same time, right? You have to hold the light with the dark.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's really, really dark in there.
It can get really dark in there. Yeah. I think I love that you brought it back to Nava. We're right at about time, so what a good way to come full circle and remember about how to, all right, so to celebrate, to make beautiful. What was the first one?
To bring home, to celebrate, and to make
home,
beautiful.
To bring home, to bring it home.
Maybe to come home, actually. I can't remember, but to come home, to bring home, same, or whatever.
Same, but different. I like it.
Same, but different.
And then, I'll see. I'll ask if there's any last thing you want to share on these. I've really enjoyed this conversation. We really went all over, but circled around home in such a good way. I'll offer one thing that I just saw the other day that I aspire toward. It was Trevor Noah talking about culture in South Africa. And he said they even have a word for this thing that he just doesn't see around over here. It's called liming, to lime, Lime, And he said it's where you hang out with your friends and you're literally doing nothing. You don't have plans. You're not going to do something. You're going to lime. We're liming today. You want to lime Saturday? You ready to lime? And
oh my God, I love a lime.
Over to your friends, right? And it's like, how often do we actually just lime? And that just made me think of that, just to be. How often, even with our close friends, do we feel like we have to be on or doing something or being positive or something? When do we give ourselves the space to move the couches around and just be and let whatever happens? So I wanted to end with some lime. And then if you have anything you want to share before we sign off for our lovely listeners.
Yeah, honestly, I am loving on the liming. I'm thinking about how the friends that I'm able to lime around with are the richest friendships that I have. They are the friendships that I leave and I'm like, that was 10 therapy sessions in one hangout with somebody I love. And we got to eat really good food. We had takeout or we made brownies or whatever it is, right? Those leaving hangouts like those limes, yummy. It's yummy.
Yummy.
It is.
Back to the yum. Absolutely. You know what the heart chakra color is?
Green. No.
Green.
Yeah.
Probably not lime green, but for this metaphor, we're going to put it liming, green, yummy, the heart chakra. It's whenever we're in the heart. It's whenever we're in the heart with those friends. That's exactly right.
Love it.
It's all coming
It's funny,
together.
we think love is red, but I agree. Love is green. Love is softer. Again, it's nature, right? Nature is so loving and giving.
Yeah, nurturing, growing.
Yeah.
Green is the color of growth, of new growth.
Yeah. Love should feel safe, right? And I don't know. Red's a lying color. In color theory, actually, red is aggressive. It's
That's right.
anger.
That's the root chakra. That's where a lot of other stuff comes up. And I think we could get into that in another podcast about that for sure. But for now, we could
just keep rolling and record our next 10. We can truly speak for 3 hours. I know I can with you.
I absolutely know it too. And we've done it before. We'll have to do it for next time. But for now, we'll leave ourselves and the listeners looking at that green light across the lake, just like Gatsby looking for Buchanan. Or was it the other one? But anyway,
no, that was it.
Thanks for talking. Thanks for centering around the green light with me today. It was very yummy, and I got so much from it. And I look forward to the next time.
Me too. I'm so glad I could spend this time with you. And I'll see you when I see you. I'm going to text you a picture from my sit spot because I'm going to go walk my dog over there now.
Thank you. Oh, enjoy the sit spot. Bye. Thank you,
Bye,
listeners.
my friend. See ya.
This has been the Do You Feel Heard podcast. If you're interested in resources that will help you move through conflict, you can go to doyoufeelheard.com, where we have tools for individuals and couples.